Oh, look at this doddering old guy. Look at this avuncular grandpa, like, ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, all of a sudden, he starts catching on. And then you know you have, it's almost like Stalinist Russia or the Soviet Union. You know you've hit it because they say he's crazy. Alex, in this country, that is the greatest compliment. You're crazy. You're a lunatic. You're out of your mind.
Because that means they can't respond to any of your issues. They just use these little throwaway lines, and that means you're over the target.
You know, exactly. You know, Alex, when you're playing golf and somebody says, now, hang on a minute, I've got in my bag here the USPGA golf rules. You say, wow, that's great. I'm really impressed. Or, you know, I'm watching this baseball game, and I happen to have the official rules of baseball. Ooh, because on a sports show, you will not be allowed to say word number one if you don't know the fundamentals of a game. But under American politics, in our system, if you pull out the Constitution, just like you did the rules of golf or baseball, you're looked at some kind of a hair splitter, a nut, some lunatic. Alex, you cannot get into the school board, dog catcher, water control without swearing fealty and allegiance to the Constitution. And the Constitution is this thing that people either think, A, it covers everything you want to do, or B, it doesn't cover anything. It's one or the other. People use two expressions in this country. There ought to be a law, and that's unconstitutional. And we use unconstitutional to mean that's not fair, or that's not right, or somebody's telling me I can't do something. Yet when you say, well, no, the Constitution says this, and they say, wait a minute, hold it. You're acting crazy. When, what was it? Who was it? Newsweek or Time who said, does the Constitution matter? Right?
Yeah, it was Newsweek. Listen, that's a great way to put it, though. You bring out the Ten Commandments even, or you bring out the rules of football. People really get into that, fans, knowing every little thing. They'll even have the books and sit there and check the refs.
Oh, yeah.
But you bring up the Constitution. I've had police tell me, I don't want to hear that, and start laughing. I've seen cases where judges have said in state and federal, don't bring the Constitution in my courtroom. I've got footage of police in my film Road to Tyranny at a checkpoint in their own squad cars. The woman says, you can't search my car. This is a checkpoint. They drag her out and they find a pocket Constitution and they start heavy breathing, Lionel, like they found Satan's baby or something in the trunk. I mean, how did they get it to where it's not only seen as kooky, it's seen as dangerous?
You know, there's also something, it's an excellent point. There's something which I absolutely have felt, Alex, since the beginning of when I first started prosecuting. The dumbest thing that we do in this country is to criminalize drug abuse and to criminalize drugs. It's insane. That's like suggesting I'm going to stop diabetes by arresting diabetics. Or I'm going to stop somebody eating a big gulp or drinking a big gulp and say, all right, drop that Twinkie, fatso, up against the wall. You're under arrest. Why? Because diabetes causes X amount of billions of dollars. Now, when Ron Paul, they say, are you for legalizing drugs? This is their thing. It's like, no, that's not what he's for. The question is simply this. There are some things in the world that we don't necessarily need to stop through law enforcement. People love law enforcement. It's funny, you know, Alex, if you talk about, well, I got an idea. Why don't we talk about more money to represent people charged with laws who can't afford a lawyer? Oh, no. No. Wait a minute. You wanted more laws, right? Yes. You wanted more law enforcement, yes. Well, then we're going to need more lawyers and public defenders and legal aid. Oh, no. Wait a minute. What do you want? I want people locked up. I don't want them to keep their mouths shut. And I don't want them to even think about fighting the charge. Then we talk about this. What about jail overcrowding? Try this one. Try saying, listen, I want to build more prisons, but not in your neighborhood. Or I'm going to put prisons, or we can do the Sheriff Arpaio, which he makes some interesting points, but we're going to put people in Abu Ghraib. We are becoming, little by little, systematically, this draconian third world, militaristic, you know, it's the Stanford prison experiment all over again. It's the Milgram experiment. And I'm telling you what's also interesting. I was watching TV Land the other day with my wife. and I was watching Andy Griffith Show, never wore a gun, peace officer, public servant, the guy from Norman Rockwell. Remember that? Hey, son, if you're lost, I want you to go to that police officer. He's your friend. I remember when I was a kid, I'm 53, I never saw a SWAT uniform. Now, they don't even have a uniform. We're becoming systematically habituated to this idea through this hyper-militarized transition. The police now wear helmets and shields and M4s and Kevlar and magazines and RoboCop knee pad. What are the knee pads for? What, for prone firing? What is this? And then we're getting people who don't want to be cops to help, to find that lost kid. Oh no, they want to be a big shot, Alex. Give me that there gun. Give me that badge. Yeah, buddy. I'm going to do it. And we're seeing this little by little, systematically, incrementally. And what's happening is that while all this is happening, the country is in a daze. I don't understand what will it take. And then recently, when people did finally do something with Occupy Wall Street, granted, their message may not have been the most lucid at times, at least pockets of it, we laughed at them. I was so happy, Alex. And I saw it here in New York in Zuccotti Park. By the way, they made Zuccotti Park seem like Central Park. You should have seen this. It was a postage stamp. There's no, Zuccotti Park is like, nobody even knew where this place was. It's a name. But when people dared to stand up, the first thing people said was, shut them down. And what happened? This was the year of the pepper spray. Remember that fellow walking around with his crop dusting people who dared to speak their mind. And what did Americans secretly do? They applauded the police. They applauded the vanquishing and the cessation of dissent.
But you know what that is subconsciously? A lot of people, we see this in Rome and other tyrannies when Rome was declining, they just bet on whoever they think's going to win. So even though they don't like it, they go, well, I feel good getting with the power structure. Even though it's screwing me, I at least can feel like if I'm going to be raped, I'm going to enjoy it. And, that's pretty much the mindset of what we're dealing with here. Lionel, there's so many other issues I wanted to talk to you about, but we're almost out of time. But you talk about Ron Paul just trying to follow the Constitution. This is the Magna Carta. This was everything that had been developed to try to protect the little guy from gangs of other powerful people getting together and coming and making you their slave. And it was a system to try to allow individuals to develop their own wealth. And sure, we never implemented it all, but it is the greatest ideas ever put forward and did create incredible wealth. And now that hedge is dropping. I think it's important that you're here, I'm here, Ron Paul, and many other lovers of liberty are here, because I am starting to see more people wake up and listen. But as things get worse and worse, Lionel, down the road, it's important for people that told the vampire, the devil, come on in the house, that they'll really remember what we warned them about down the road if this goes the way it went in Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia or Communist China or Khmer Rouge in Cambodia. Because when you start getting a nasty-looking tyranny, like this kind of carnivore type system, it always gets really nasty. So I don't think the sheeple out there that are parading for this evil, they don't have the slightest idea what their acquiescence is going to manifest. Your comments on that? Precisely.
Alex, there's this internet phrase. Have you heard about Godwin's law or Godwin's principle? That
yes.
Says every time you talk about something on the internet, there's a certain amount of time before Hitler's name will be invoked. There's two things I want people to understand. Number one, do not call everything Hitler. Do not compare, do not demean the horror of his legacy by suggesting that every time there's an abuse of power, it's Hitler. By the same token, never forget what his regime did. And understand how culturally sophisticated those people were. It started with nationalism. Everything that happened to Germany can happen to anybody. One thing that your show, many things that it does, I have been, and I want to thank you for this, inspired to look at history. You'll say something and say, I'm going to look that up. If there should be two shows, the Alex Jones Show and the bibliography. Every time you cite something, a name, a reference, I have been inspired to learn more history, which I did not know. But you got to understand, this was a very, very, Germans brought us, Mozart and Goethe and Einstein, and I mean, my God, these were brilliant people. So it can happen there. What's also important to understand is that there is something we're seeing also, and believe it or not, I want you to look at bullying. Bullying, now there was teasing when we were kids, and there was, Eddie Haskell types, and there was busting chops and all kinds of expressions. But something is happening where bullying almost reflects what we're seeing that is being done by the hyper-militarization of police and how citizens are being subjugated, how we are ceding our jurisdiction to people that we pay. Remember, these people, the police, bless their hearts, good for them, they work for us. We're seeing it even at the grade school level. Kids who are taking on this mantle of absolute, not just, I'm going to push you around, but I'm going to own you. I'm going to drive you. I don't want you just to cry, Alex Jones. I want you to kill yourself. And I'm going to come after you. Think about it. We are seeing everything in a heightened level.
No, exactly. Very nasty exercises in power. And I'm glad you mentioned this at the end of the interview because I wasn't going to have time to get to it. But here it is. Here's the Daily Mail. Hit Star Wars game lets players own and torment female slaves with electric shock collar. We have police now to make somebody give a urine sample, tasering them, and judges in a New York State case ruling you can do that. We've got all of this where torture and pain compliance and all of it's like a Pandora's box where it's like America is exploring all these lower brain functions and just, and like if you're a real man, you're going to get into this. And it really is sadistic. It really is demonic, for lack of a better term. And it's very sick.
The greatest example you will see when historians look back, Alex, during this part, and again on Lionel Media, I've talked about this since, I can't remember when I started, but somebody somewhere, I just imagine in my movie that I'm going to be doing as Psychologist General, we close the door, and whether it's Janet Napolitano or Chertoff or whoever, and we sit back and we say, gentlemen, here's to you. Toast to you. I never thought they would put up with this. I never thought, I got to hand it whoever it was who came up with taking that poor guy with bladder cancer and then having him beg and plead not to fumble with his urostomy, not to take this man who had suffered from near-death bladder cancer and begging you, please, don't cause the adhesion to break. And when you guys dropped his pants to his knees because he had to wear oversized pants to accommodate this bag, and when you dropped him to his knees like some kind of a cartoon, and then spilled the bag of urine on it, drenching him in his own urine, and then made him waddle across, run, crying across the terminal to his flight, which he missed, and he couldn't clean up until they took off, I thought for sure, fellas, that we were done. But you know what they did? You know what the sheeple did? Nothing. And then when that woman went to see her family to die of leukemia, you made her, sir. I thought that they didn't do anything.
And Miss USA, when they went in her vagina, and now they're groping small girls, and now they're lying about the radiation exposure. It is a religion of submission to evil, and that's why I only use the Nazi or Soviet term at the proper point, because these tyrants are trying to consciously mimic it, and that's where this road is leading, where we let the worst of us, those that want to press on the nerve of power, like O'Brien tells Winston, we're building a society where it gets more brutal. It's about trampling and being trampled on, O'Brien tells Winston. And that's what they're doing. We, good men and women, have let the tyrants flourish. And as our founders said, the only thing that evil needs a tyrant, the only thing that evil needs to flourish is that good men and women do nothing, and now we're letting it manifest. Lionel, look forward to having you on the radio, and a great job over there with the daily TV show and everything else you're doing. God bless and have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Alex. Happy New Year, sir.
Good talking to you.